This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post. Brought to you by the Fort Hall School of Government, coming to you from Nairobi, Kenya. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning, but we also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 12th of August, 2020, and I am 2J.
I'm Tuam.
And I am JM. Let's get to the headlines. In the Daily Nation, bring it on. RUTO dares deep state. In the Standard, you can't stop me. And in the Star, VCs propose triple fees for new varsity intake. Shall we begin with the Star very quickly?
Yes, the Star. They're telling us that they want to triple the price of university fees for students for the upcoming year. And I think the reason they say this is because they have remained the same for the past 31 years.
Yeah.
So basically, they just want students to bear the brunt of what is remaining. And I think that's a fantastic point. I will give the Star a few lashings for giving a very sensationalist headline. I think if you dig deep into the facts, you find that this is something worthy of promoting.
Yeah.
So I think based on the fact that there are other more interesting headlines, let's toss the Star.
But just very quickly, 2J, you know,
Yes.
how do you make such a boring topic so interesting? You've got to sensationalize it, and I think that's what the Star has done very well. But as you say, I think
there's more interesting news of the day.
Toss that on right
Yes.
off the bat.
Absolutely.
We've got a three-part criteria that we use to judge the headlines. Are they topical or speculative, repetitive or groundbreaking, and finally thoughtful or just plain lazy? Now let's get to the Daily Nation.
Yes.
Yes.
Bring it
Tuam,
on.
You want to give us some context here?
Bring it on.
And we can take both of these
we,
together.
we can do Daily Nation and Standard together.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yesterday, William RUTO meets some Maasai leaders at his house in Karen. And he says the following. He says that these people who have been teaching us, first he said 2013, him and President Uhuru Kenyatta were threatened with choices of consequences, with essential contact. And then come now, he is being threatened with the deep state and the system. And
According to him.
According to him, that's what he said. And he said that he will wait for the system and the deep state to come, and he will respond with the people and with God.
You know what's really interesting to me?
Yeah.
Every time the deputy president mentions the word deep state or the system,
Yeah.
if you go and check Google Trends,
Yeah.
you can see Kenyans go wild because they clearly want to understand
Yeah.
what is this term big state? What
Yeah.
does this mean?
Yes.
And I think that the reason they do that is because the deputy president himself does not know what the deep state is. He does not articulate it clearly, and so the people have to go out to Google for answers. However, this table represents the Fort Hall School of Government. And so for free, for the Deputy President, we're going to give you Political Science 101. Get your notebooks out.
Yeah.
Right. So this expression, the deep state, it actually comes from a translation of Turkish origin, which the phrase was derin devlet, which means a state within a state. And as you look for some of the definitions of what it might mean, one historian described it very clearly. He said, it is a kind of shadow or parallel system of government in which unofficial or publicly unacknowledged individuals play important roles, key there, important roles in defining or implementing state policy.
Yeah.
I think that's a fantastic definition.
Absolutely.
And so if we ask why do we need this deep state?
Yeah.
And I think the reason is because sometimes the simpletons don't need to know what's happening behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah.
You've elected competent people, sometimes more often than not, to do the sausage making.
Yes.
And I don't think the people need to be behind where that deep state lies, knowing every single detail of what is going on.
Precisely.
I think that if you knew that, I think you may be over your head. And I think that's precisely why the deep state is deep.
Yes.
Yeah.
If it was not deep, it would be washed ashore. It would not be stable. It would not hold us together.
Absolutely.
So I
and we
think
would
that's-
end up in a situation like Somalia,
Yes.
with many militia groups running very many parts of the
Exactly.
country. Who wants to be like that?
Absolutely.
Not Kenya.
Absolutely.
Let me just analyze a little bit the events of yesterday
Yes.
and the consequences politically. And clearly, RUTO, I think, is not a student of history. And unfortunately for him, he is taking on the path of Jaramogi. You know, Jaramogi would attend cabinet meetings and bang tables when he disagreed with Jomo Kenyatta, saying,
Yes.
we put you there. Without me, you would not be president.
Yes.
A very brazen approach to the then president.
Yes.
And now the Odinga family, as you would know, has been a deep state victim since he parted ways, since Jaramogi parted ways with KANU and formed KPU in 66 and later on 69.
Yes.
And just to add, it is worth noting that if Jaramogi had been patient enough, he would have been president. If Raila too had been patient enough, he would also have been president. And guess what? In 2022, he would probably be handing over to Uhuru Kenyatta.
Absolutely.
Now, Moi suffered a few frustrations from the deep state, but the reason he carried the day is because he loved Jomo Kenyatta, as I mentioned in the episode of the 3rd of June 2020. Check that out to see what I said.
Absolutely.
Matiba, who was the rightful winner of the 1992 election, was a victim of the deep state.
Yes.
Kibaki was also a victim of the deep state.
Yeah.
And the only reason he won in 2002 is because Moi was not running for another term.
Yeah.
Raila, as you know, was a deep state victim in 2007. And only in 2007, he lost fair and square in 2013 and 2017. So let me sum up with the teachings of Professor Bruce Mosquita in the Dictator's Handbook, who says, just as the most important people in a company are not the shareholders, but the board, the CEO and upper management, in a country, the most important people in an election are not the voters, also called the interchangeables. Rather, they are the essentials and the influentials who comprise the powerful bureaucrats, political operatives, and tycoons. That's where the real power lies, and that's what the deputy president should understand. These are the people that he should be seeking favor with, not the people and God alone.
Jem, it sounds like you've created a little club for them, deep state victims.
I tell you, it's a whole club, you know, and he's about to join it.
If anything, what does it tell you? Don't go looking for the deep state. The deep state will look for you.
Absolutely. And Jem, I could not agree more. But there are also 4 things here that William Ruto should have done, in my view. Number 1, he should have read the book, 48 Laws of Power. Law number 33 in this book say, discover each man's weakness. Now, if he read this, he should have discovered that when you chest thump, you say, yes, we are going to wait for the deep state of the system, you're either a coward, 1, or 2, you are in a fragile state. But second thing I also want to say is this. Nikita Khrushchev taught us one thing, that those that cast a vote do not matter. The ones that matter are the ones that count the vote.
Absolutely.
All right. So I think he was taking a shot at Prof when he made that statement yesterday. But thing number 3 I want to say is Tao paradox, and this law says that whenever you are weak, appear strong. Whenever you're strong, appear weak. Now because he is weak, he wants to appear strong, and that's why his body language seemed to be a little bit off. But the fourth thing I also want to say is that anytime William Ruto has appeared strong, anytime he has told us he has the numbers, he has not delivered. He told us in Kibera that Mariga will beat this other guy from, his name is Okoth, by a big landslide. But where did he end up? Absolutely nowhere. Thing number 2, the purge at Senate. His group said that they'll not show up and the purge will fail. What happened is Uhuru Kenyatta got his way. So I don't think he should sit there and grandstand. I think the system is something to be feared.
He should court the deep state.
Absolutely.
Yeah, these are the people who make or break presidential ambitions and whatnot. So on account of that, whom should we give the winning headline? Daily Nation or the Standard?
I think we'll just give it to the Standard.
Jem, you were saying that you think some of these headlines are missing some words.
They're missing some words. The one word it's missing here is baby. You know, since Miguna told us, bring it on, baby, bring it on, during his book launch. Come, baby, come, right? And then Millicent Tomanga a few months ago on the steps of Parliament was telling,
bring it on, baby.
You know, bring it on, baby, bring it on. We have the numbers. On behalf of the Deputy President's coalition. You know, that's what these headlines are.
You can't stop me, baby.
You can't stop me, baby, and bring it on, baby.
But I would agree with you.
I think we give it to the Standard. It's a little bit more creative, short and punchy. And so the Standard has our winning headline, and of course the Daily Nation. And on to the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. We also have a 3-part criteria that we use to assess them. Are the cartoons humorous or dry, satirical or pessimistic, and finally effective or just plain lazy? Let me begin with the Daily Nation. And here we have a caricature of Governor Sonko dressed in pajamas, shaking what appears to be a solid tree. And behind him is a tree that he has uprooted with Beatrice Alachi's head in it. And the caption reads, Agade shaken out, Alachi shaken out, General Badi, question mark. And the question begs, will he will he uproot Badi, having shaken out Elachi and Negade from office?
Yes.
My view is most probably not, in a contest between a civilian
Yes.
and a soldier. A soldier will always carry the day.
Absolutely.
I like that.
They have arms, they have an army, they have constitutional mandate.
Yeah.
So Sonko isn't going to be uprooting Badi anytime soon. And in fact, I think the only way to tame him is to surround him with more military men and women.
Ooh.
Couldn't agree more. It's democracy is
100% agree.
democracy is overrated, JM.
Yes.
We need more military people running our counties.
Absolutely.
Great cartoon.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Good cartoon there. I think we put in the parking bay.
The standard, Gado,
Yeah.
you have drawing and caricature of Raila Odinga. And he is right. He actually, there are two horses that Raila Odinga is riding. Is that correct?
Yes.
And I think this is a two-horse race. This is what Gado is trying to tell us. And Raila is running against himself.
Yeah.
Meaning that William Ruto will not be a factor in 2022. Is that
It's a
what
done
Gado is
deal.
trying to tell us?
Yeah.
And
No,
I think-
2M, I have to give you credit for deciphering this cartoon. Upon first glance, I was like, Gado, again, nothing else to draw. But I think with what you've explained,
But it's
very clear.
It's very weird that Gado of all people would draw something like this. But he's also telling us something that he has realized that 2022 may not even be an election year. That we are going to a parliamentary system, and the only candidate will be Raila Odinga as ceremonial president.
Yeah.
So 2022 is Raila's election to lose.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. I think we put
Good
that in the parking
cartoon.
bay.
Yes,
In
finally.
the Star.
In the Star, we have State House in the background. We have a caricature of Elachi, who has, I guess she's given up. She's thrown her boxing gloves, away. And in the background, we see General Badi and Sonko battling it out.
Yeah.
And the caption here, I refuse to sing, guys. I'm so sorry.
You got
The
it. You gotta
caption
say.
here, well, I guess we'll have somebody play some music in the background.
Sing.
You've got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, and know when to walk away and when to run.
Yeah.
And that is from, Kenny
Kenny
Rogers.
Kenny Rogers.
And that's actually County Hall there.
Oh, County Hall, yes, yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, this is my issue with Ozone all the time.
Yeah.
The mixed narratives. So this song is speaking about a poker game. Yeah. In fact, I think the title of the song is The Gambler, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yet the narrative he's using is them being in a boxing ring. And I think it would have been more apt for him to, draw this as a poker game, because I think what happened is Elachi was not able to see Sonko's bluff.
Yes.
Right? Sonko was
Yes.
bluffing. She said that she was being threatened and whatnot.
Yeah.
So she, she failed to see the bluff. And I think a poker analogy may have been more apt. Yeah. But a good cartoon.
So maybe on account of that, we can toss the Star.
Oh, yes,
Absolutely.
toss it.
Yeah. So
Where's-
toss the
where's
one.
the Star?
And so between the Daily Nation and the Standard.
Yes. Let's pick the Gado cartoon.
Gado cartoon, okay.
Yes.
Sure, why
Let's
not?
throw it.
So toss the Daily Nation, and we have our winning cartoon from the Standard. And now, on to our final thought. But before that, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. So what is our final thought?
And now our final thought. It is inspired by a book entitled Cows, Pigs, Wars and Witches. The Riddles of Culture by Marvin Harris.
Yes. Interesting title.
Yeah.
So, why do Jews and Muslims refuse to eat pork?
Wow.
Why were thousands of witches burned at the stake in late medieval Europe? And why do starving Indians refuse to eat beef? So these and other riddles are explored by famous anthropologist Marvin Harris, and his conclusions are actually very simple. People act within social and ecological contexts that make their actions meaningful to their own existence. And so over the years, Harris has discovered that lifestyles which others may claim are totally incomprehensible actually have definite and readily logical causes. So to make this point, he says in the book himself, he has deliberately chosen bizarre and controversial cases that seem to be unsolvable riddles. And so this was a very interesting look at some of these cultural riddles that tend to mystify people, mostly in the West.
Yeah.
So he talks about things like cow love in India, pig hate in the Middle East, and communities with strange superstitious beliefs.
Yes.
So he explains how some of these ridiculous behaviors are actually very sensible, and they are successful because they have been mechanisms of adaptation.
Yes.
And so I took chapter 1, which was entitled Mother Cow.
Yep.
And he looks at what he calls cow love. And he explores why, not in a romantic way, but he explores why starving peasants in India don't go and kill these sacred cows and eat them. You're starving, eat the cow. cow.
Yeah.
And after all, he says most interestingly that there's historical evidence that there have been a long history of Indians killing and eating horses and cows for up until 2,000 years ago. So there was evidence of them having done that. So he looks to see why vegetarianism took hold over the country and why cows came to be held as sacred.
Yeah.
So from a Westerner's point of view, he admits this early on, they believe that they are superior. We know this. And they consider this Oriental mind or this cow love to be primitive and irrational.
Yeah.
And he says that the reason this vegetarianism or this cow love took hold was because of high population density and food scarcity. So cows are simply just more effective when you use them to turn grass into food, when they're used as plows. They provide fertilizer and cement from their dung. Protecting cows and letting them wander through the streets becomes a way of street cleaning. So the cows just wander the street and eat all your rubbish, and their milk will always be available. And so cow love, he says, protects the farmers against calculations that are irrational in the short term. If you kill your cow today, it's not helping you in the long term. It's better off for you to have it as a sustainable economic resource in the long term. And so he says this beef taboo, although now seen as a religious choice, is highly functional in the Hindu society.
Oh, yes.
If the Hindus decided to slaughter their cows and participate in the beef selling industry, their entire ecosystem would collapse. And this is because we know what happens when you have cattle farming. The cows eat more food than the people do. So you have to set aside large amounts of land in order for them to eat when you could just be using that land for you. So it would only raise prices of food for the poor. And so I think ultimately this book just challenges people to change the way in which they think. And the author shows that no matter how bizarre some of the choices that people make are, they always stem from a very concrete social and economic rational choice.
Absolutely.
And I think we can say that for some of our cattle herders, in northern Kenya.
Absolutely.
They don't kill them for a reason.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Very interesting.
So you should not look down on people who eat dogs, right?
No.
That caught me off guard.
Yeah, dogs and snakes and bats, which give us COVID-19 and what have you. We should not look down on them, but we must ban some of those practices which are so harmful to
I
mankind.
wasn't ready for that.
Anyway.
I was doing the chapter on the savage meal. Now, Harris talks about a professor. It's called Napoleon Shannon. It's Chagnon, but I think it's Shannon, of Pennsylvania State University. Now, this Shannon guy has been studying a group of people called the Yanomamos. It's a group of about 10,000 American Indian tribesmen who inhabit the Brazil-Venezuelan border. Now, personally, I have not seen such a chaotic or more violent people. Now, in fact, they've been labeled as the most fierce people on earth. Now, these guys fight amongst each other. They clobber each other. They slice each other for absolutely no reason. All right? They butcher each other mercilessly without notice. Now, he tells a story about close relatives who decide to butcher each other just for one eating bananas. So now, story goes, Shannon observed an encounter where father and son fought. The young man had eaten some bananas that his father had hung to ripen. Now, father gets angry. Now he goes, takes a bakora from the thatched roof, and he smashes his son on the head. Poof!
Wow.
Now, son in retaliation does the exact same thing. Goes, takes a bakora from the thatched roof and bangs his father's head. Puff! Now, both of them are bleeding like a nonsense. Now, the villagers see this, and instead of helping, they take sides. One goes, takes a rungu, one goes, takes a sword, one goes, takes a machete, and they literally slice each other like a nonsense. Blood is all over. Bloodletting is all over.
Yeah.
Fight is done, everyone has bruises, lacerations, everyone is just in misery. Now, he asks, why do these males do this? Why are they so savage? And you know what the answer is?
What?
Women. Now, he says, the reason it is women is because women in this society are in short supply. In fact, males outnumber females 120 to just 100. Right? Now, for every villageman or top warriors, many of them have about 2 or more wives.
Gosh.
And since fathers bequeath their infant daughters to tribal influential leaders, so that to get favors from the influential leaders, sexually mature ladies are married off early. Now, this makes young men go and fight others, and even increase the cases of adultery. But the reason these males fight the way they fight is simply because there are no women.
Yeah. Shortage in supply.
Sure, exactly.
My goodness.
That's very curious.
Drives into very strange behavior.
Yeah, it's a good lesson for all of us. If you want to keep us men happy, just the ratio should be in favor of women.
Yeah.
All right.
Very interesting. Now, I'll give a short history lesson on messiahs as is told to us in the book. And so the author explains the origins of the term Messiah and traces it back to the ancient Hebrew people of Israel. David, we are told, was the founder of the first and largest Jewish empire. He was called Messiah or Mashiach in Hebrew, a term that was also applied to priests, to shields, to David's predecessor Saul and David's son Solomon thereafter. And so, you know, we're told as well in Hebrew history that Yahweh, or God, as we call him, had made a promise to David that his dynasty would never end. It would rule for a very long time. But his empire, we're told, actually began to crumble shortly after his death. And so the question that bothered the Jews thereafter was, why had Yahweh permitted so many nations to become great while his chosen people were repeatedly conquered and enslaved?
Yeah.
Why hadn't Yahweh kept his promise to David and his ancestors, the people who came after him? And they figured it was because they had sinned. They figured they were guilty, they had caused their own ruin. However, they knew that Yahweh was a forgiving person, was a forgiving God, and he would still keep his promise if the Jews, despite their punishment, continued to believe that he was the one true God.
Yeah.
And so they knew that Yahweh would send another military prince like David to destroy the enemy nations of Israel. And this anticipation, the author says, created the idea of a vengeful military Messiah who would come and rescue the Jews from their perpetual oppression. And so part of the reason why the Jews, he says, did not believe that Jesus was their savior was because he did not exhibit the traits of this militant Messiah that they had always been in anticipation of. And the author says that his tradition, that of Jesus, was that of the peaceful Messiah. And worth of note as well is that the Jesus cult, quote unquote, as he calls it, was neither the largest nor the most threatening of the rebellious situations in Palestine at the time. He says between the years 40 BC and 73 AD, there were at least 5 Jewish military messiahs who led very threatening rebellions against the Roman Empire. And so the essence of that whole story is that the Bible doesn't really get into the details of the context surrounding the coming of Jesus and his lifetime. But there were very many militant messianic characters who were constantly trying to get the Jews out of the oppression from the Roman Empire. And so Jesus just happened to be born in that era. And he happened to be the peaceful Messiah whose message carries on to this day.
Love,
That's the long and short of it. So on a day when we had a winning headline from the Standard and a winning cartoon also from the Standard, I will leave you with a quote. We do not see things as they are. Rather, we see things as we are. And there's a pretty good reason. When things are the way they are, there's a fairly good reason that, you know, that they happen that way. So just remember to beware of that cognitive bias when you're on the outside looking into a community, a society, wondering why is it that they... Precisely, wondering why is it that you make decisions that way and not this way.
Absolutely.
See them for what they are. Be a little bit objective. Yes, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are also on your TV screens. Find us on Prime, Free to Air, Go TV, and Star Times.